What's going on, guys? Techricity here, and the world's largest startup, that is Xiaomi, entered the Indian market 1 year ago with a device that blew a lot of people's minds, and that was the Xiaomi Mi4i. Now, one of the main reasons behind the Mi4i's awesome success was its awesome value for money. And now Xiaomi has released bang for the buck phones in the past after the Mi4i, like the Mi4 and the Redmi Note and things like that, but nothing really had that wow factor that the Mi4i had. So much, in fact, that Indian consumers started wondering if Xiaomi could actually follow up. And they answered with this. This is the Xiaomi Mi4i, and today I'm going to be reviewing it. Now, Xiaomi is marketing this 13,000 rupee or $200 phone as a flagship, and while that's inaccurate, from the moment this phone falls into your hand, it feels like a well-built high-end phone, mainly because of its soft-touch, non-removable polycarbonate shell, which comes in a variety of colors, though I only recommend the white or black model because they have a much better finish, adding to the premium feel of the phone, and also because of its dimensions, coming in at 5.4 inches tall and 7.8 millimeters thin. The phone has both the volume rocker and the power button on the right side, a dual SIM, dual 4G SIM tray on the left, the headphone jack on the top, a microphone, and a surprisingly tight micro USB port at the bottom. The back of the phone supposedly has an anti-grease coating, which is great for people like me with sweaty hands, and also has a dual tone LED flash on the upper left, the 13 megapixel camera beside it, which is almost level with the phone, except for a teeny bit on the top due to the slightly curved edge of the shell, and a microphone beside that. There's a Mi logo on the bottom, and below it is a loud rear-facing speaker that apparently won't get damaged at loud volumes. Apparently, Xiaomi put the speaker here so that the sound bounces off the cup of your hand while watching a video, but I don't think this is the ideal location for phone speakers since the sound gets muffled up while the phone is lying flat on a table. The front has a 5 megapixel selfie camera, a speaker grill for calls, some sensors, and a Mi logo that I could have lived without. On the top bezel, a gorgeous 5-inch display I'll talk about soon, and 3 backlit touch-sensitive keys on the bottom bezel. And speaking of bezels, I'm okay with the amount of side bezel here. It sort of gives the phone a good look in a weird way. Xiaomi often gets criticized for its supposedly plagiarized design philosophy, but the Mi4i sort of looks like a Nokia X and the iPhone 5C had an overgrown child raised by Uncle Nexus 5, which is a completely unique combination. So about that display I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to say it is straight up amazing. It's a 5-inch Full HD display coming in at 441 ppi, and it's made by either JDI or Sharp, who are the leading manufacturers in the world right now. Now, this phone does not have Gorilla Glass 3, but it does have Corning Concord OGS or One Glass solution, which is said to provide the same level of scratch resistance of Gorilla Glass 3. The viewing angles are great, the colors pop out at you while still remaining accurate, and it even has a feature called Sunlight Display, which is supposed to make the phone a lot more usable outdoors, and it actually works. In fact, the screen rivals some AMOLED displays from Samsung, and that is saying something. You won't really find a better display unless you double the asking price of this phone. Heck, some phones that cost triple as much don't have displays as nice as this one. The display makes you want to use the phone more and more because, after all, when the display gets better, the smartphone experience gets better. And the experience of this phone is molded by MIUI 6 based on Android 5.0.2 Lollipop, which lets the phone take advantage of its 64-bit processor, and even though MIUI 6 is a little heavier than stock, you'll very rarely run into lag on this hardware. For those of you that don't know, MIUI is an Android skin done right, which completely changes the look and feel of Android, and this is coming from someone who generally does not like Android skins. It doesn't have an app drawer and is criticized for being similar to iOS, but it's packed to the gills with a bunch of useful software tweaks, and unlike iOS, it actually lets you tweak around a lot. For example, you can cap the clock speed or pattern lock specific apps and things like that. MIUI also makes your phone extremely customizable via the theme store, which has like a gazillion themes to choose from and completely change the look and feel of MIUI. I only have minor issues with MIUI, those being that the built-in calculator doesn't seem to have a percentage symbol, the app lock from the Play Store doesn't function properly, and little things like that. Pushing MIUI on the Mi4i is a Snapdragon 615 along with an Adreno 405, you know, because it's a flagship. So this is a 2nd gen 615, and it's an octa-core 64-bit chipset with 4 cores clocked at 1.1 GHz and 4 cores clocked at 1.7 GHz for when you need it. Shortly put, this phone is pretty darn fast. General everyday tasks and even light gaming is great, and intensive gameplay is good too, but not good enough for a flagship. To answer a question on almost everyone's mind, no, this phone doesn't overheat nearly as much as some previous Xiaomi phones. Although it does occasionally get warm while performing intensive tasks, this is nothing to worry about. This phone has 2 gigs of RAM time and you're stuck with 16 gigs of onboard storage, again because this is a flagship phone. Jokes aside, this is a deal breaker to some people, and not including a microSD card slot seems to be a pretty bad move on Xiaomi's part. Although teardown videos show that there is no space for a microSD card slot in this phone, I've seen manufacturers in the past use dual SIM trays to host one SIM card and one microSD card. Then again, I'm not an engineer, so don't hold that up to me. Some people try to defend the Mi4i storage woes by saying that it supports USB OTG, but I'm sure most people aren't going to have a flash drive sticking out of their phones at all times. Personally, storage is not an issue for me or a lot of people I know because I don't really use all that many apps and my photos and music go on the cloud, but in 2015, around 11 gigs of usable storage is not going to cut it for a lot of people. Something outstanding about the Mi4i is the humongous 3120 mAh battery powering everything. It's amazing Xiaomi managed to put such a big battery in a 5-inch phone. I've used this phone through a big fat Indian wedding and I can assure you it's going to last all day for most people on auto brightness. The phone supports quick charging, so with the appropriate charger, this phone will go from 0 to 40 in about an hour. The cameras are pretty good on the Mi4i. It has a f2.0 13-megapixel 5-element rear camera with a sensor from Sony or Samsung, and it's capable of capturing some pretty great images. HDR on the Mi4i is exceptional with 2 different modes for different use cases. The camera app allows you to use multiple filters and has a fully manual mode if you know what you're doing, along with a bunch of other stuff and settings. I'm going to let these samples speak for themselves here. As you can see, photos in good light turn out pretty good most of the time, albeit with a little effort while taking the shot. Video records up to 1080p, but slow motion video is only 720p. Video quality is okay, but definitely not something you'd expect to come out of a flagship. The front camera is a 5-megapixel f1.8 80-degree selfie shooter, and most of the time photos came out great, but sometimes they were a little soft for my taste and white balance was a little off, albeit this was all in auto mode. Also, Snapchat is just plain terrible on this phone. It sucks. It's usable, but it sucks for some odd reason. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with the Mi4i's cameras. They may not be the best, but it's unbelievable that they're on a 13K phone. Ultimately, I think that the Xiaomi Mi4i packs the best punch for price in the Indian market today, and yes, it has successfully succeeded the wow factor of the Mi3 that I was talking about earlier on in this video. The Xiaomi Mi4i has all of the must-haves of a smartphone. What it doesn't have is the nice-to-haves of a flagship, for example NFC or the top-notch processor or things like that. Whatever the Mi4i can do, it does exceptionally well with a great screen, battery, and size to top it off. Is the Mi4i a flagship? No. Is the Mi4i an amazing phone? Yes, I think this is an amazing phone. It's a better buy than the Zenfone 2, and it's the best phone money can buy under 15,000 rupees. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Feel free to hit me up in the comment section down below, and above all, don't forget to subscribe. And anyway, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.